My name is Chris Potapenko. I am a product support specialist for RealityWorks here. The title doesn't mean much, but what it tells you is that anytime you have issues, either with any of the welding products or any of the other products we carry, you're going to be able to call or email and get myself or one of my other two colleagues in the department. Our goal at that point in time is to really key in on your questions that you have, any feedback you have for any of our products, and we want to take that to, one, make the experience for you as simple as possible, as painless as possible, because teaching is that first importance for your students there, and to be able to do that well and effectively means a lot to us as a company here. So, I mean, we have a lot of ways that you can communicate back to us, and I'll share those with you towards the end here. So definitely don't hesitate to stop me, ask questions, or anything of that nature. What I'm allowed to do here also are different webinar trainings like we're doing right now. We do have software that allows us to remotely connect to computers on your end, providing they have internet access and that your IT is acceptable or okay with that, I should say. So we really try to have some tools and utilities to really reach you where you need to be helped out and get you going on your way. Really, my big goal is I want to see this come out of the box, get in your hands. It's so self-explanatory. You're up and using it, and you don't have any questions ever. We're working on that currently. We're working on a lot of new features and upcoming things for this unit, as well as some of the other products behind me on the welding side of the house. So a lot going on and a lot to get through. I got all of your names as we're getting started up here so far. So, thank you for that as well. Thank you for the information and getting started here. But to begin right off the bat, what I want to do is I want to pull up a PowerPoint and kind of highlight some details of what we're going to do today. There's a lot to cover. We do have, I believe it was 2.5 hours scheduled for this. However, if it runs shorter than that, and you've got more questions, I can always set another one of these up. We can reconnect and touch on anything that you may have missed or didn't have time for. If any of you have to leave before that time, certainly feel free to do so. And again, we may not take that entire time as well, but we want to have it enough space set aside in case questions run over or new concerns come up along the way here. So we already know who I am. Let's talk about what we're going to do today here. So we're going to talk about that setup and installation, kind of getting it from out of the box to connected to your computer and getting to that first weld. We're going to talk about the different hierarchy of accounts within the software. Looks a little daunting, but as we go through it, you'll see that there's really two things that you'll focus on for the majority of use of this product. From there, we're going to go inside that software and inside that virtual welding booth. I'm going to talk about the dexterity guides in the software, how those operate, what we actually track, and we'll take a look at those reports. We can then touch on the curriculum aspect as well, available with this unit. The curriculum is one of those added bonuses that we wanted to provide so that, if you're new to a welding program at your school, you can use this right out of the box, and it goes through all of those basics. If you have curriculum that you already use, you can use as little or as much as what we provide you. That decision is entirely up to you. And then the last piece is we're going to talk about the product support that I alluded to a little bit earlier already, is what we offer as a company and really how much we value your input and feedback as you use the products there. Because our main goal, make it better all the time. So let's get started here. Out of the box, what you're going to have is a guideWELD VR base station that you see on the image here. You will have 3 welding joints. One is a T-joint, a lap joint, and a butt joint. Not sure what you guys have. Do you have MIG and stick, or just MIG?
We have both. We have both of those cards on the picture.
Perfect. Okay. So, it comes in a couple flavors. You can either get one or the other of the attachments, or the MIG gun or the stick, or both in your case that you have. You'll get 2 cables, one to connect power to the unit, and one is a USB cable to connect to the computer. And then that curriculum that comes along with it as well. You do get a pair of gloves also. They're more for an aesthetic field. They're not needed to utilize this product. And we have some shop teachers that go, well, I need a new pair of gloves in the shop, so I just use them out there. perfectly fine. They're yours to do what you want with at that point. When we talk about how to implement guideWELD VR, just briefly, I want to mention this because it may change how you decide to install the software here or how your IT does. So there's two different ways you can do this. You can do a standalone configuration in which we have the software downloaded and installed on one computer, the units connected to that one computer, and all of the students and you as the instructor access that one computer. So all of the data is just in that one location. This works well if you've got maybe 1, 2, 3 units, just a small amount. They're always going to be used in the same place. The important thing to remember is that for each computer you have set up, you as the instructor have to go in and create your user accounts and your classes and set up your assignments for each individual computer, because each computer has its own unique database that's installed on it. Likewise, your students, if you've got a group of students, those same students have to use each computer every time so that their progress is tracked. If they went to another computer and go to try to log in, their user count may not be there, or they may not have their progress because they had been welding on the first computer rather than the second or the third one down the line. The alternative to that is a multi-user installation. So if you have any questions, or if your IT have any questions of setting that up, certainly give us a call and support. We can walk through that. But instructions are available in that administrator guide as well that will detail how to set this up. The premise of this setup is that you're going to have one dedicated server, which your schools may already have, or you'll set a peer-to-peer environment, which you'll utilize one of the computers to run that single database. The benefit here is you have one database, and all of these computers that we see there connect back to that one database. So you as the instructor are only setting up your classes and user accounts one time, and no matter which computer your students go to, they're always going to have their progress available to them, and they're going to be able to pick up right where they left off. So it's not that they have to go back to a specific computer every time. It's whatever one's available they can hop on. All you need to do is have the software on there and point it back to that dedicated server. So the two options there, again, that standalone or this dedicated server, really depends on the number of units you have and then how you plan to utilize the workstations here.
Okay, Chris. So we always probably got one unit.
Okay.
What do you think is the best option, just in that case? And then is there extra expense for going one way or the other?
Oh, good questions. So there's no extra expenses depending on which way you want to do that. And if you have one unit, really the best option to give you the most versatility and mobility would be to have that one unit and the software connected and installed on a laptop.
All right, that's all I asked my next. I have a laptop I'm planning to connect.
Perfect, perfect. Because one of the other things that I find instructors do is if they've got open houses, or some schools will have career fairs or things like that, you can pick this unit up, you can grab your laptop, have it in a travel case or whatever, and you can go to a different location. It doesn't require internet access to be used, so you're able to just set up and you can get people interested or trying it out right out of the case like that. So that's how I use my unit here when I travel on site to do training or to do trade shows. I put it in a trunk. It's got foam on both sides. My laptop comes with me, pull everything out, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I got two more questions.
Yep.
Just kind of on that. Of course, it'll work on a not just a laptop, but also you could use a table, a regular computer. Correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
What if that laptop just all of a sudden goes out? It's not working anymore. What can I reinstall? Can I?
Sure, absolutely. So with the software here, once you purchase it, you can install it on as many computers as you want. We don't have any, what would you call that? We don't limit you on the number of installs you can do. We don't limit you on the number of students you can have added there. So there's no seat licenses. There's absolutely no reoccurring fees for any of the additional installations, number of users you have, or any updates that come out with the software as well. So any patches or fixes, all of those are free for the life that you have the product. So as long as you have it, every one of those is free.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, because a lot of times you can only install once. If you go to try and install again, you got to get another password, pay additional fee. And that's what I was wanting to know. So that's
Yeah,
good.
no, absolutely. We did away with that model. Previous to this product, we were producing and selling a product called guideWELD, and with that, we found really quickly trying to manage user licenses with all these school accounts was very difficult for us, but it was one more added expense for schools, and we just wanted to remove that entirely. So,
Okay.
all right. The other part of your question is, if that laptop went out, what could you do? If there was something that happened on there and your database was on that laptop, this database utility that's built in allows you to do one of two things. As long as your IT people can get the information off that hard drive, you know, they can use this database utility and we can put it right back on your new computer, so you haven't lost any progress of your students.
Student progress, okay.
Right, and you don't have to reset up your classes, user accounts, anything. So as long as something else broke on the laptop and it wasn't the hard drive itself, you'd be able to recover that and put that on your new computer using this database utility. The other thing that this is good for is oftentimes we see, definitely between semesters or summer breaks, where IT will come in and they will want to re-image all the computers so that they're fresh for the next semester. If they want to do that, they can use this utility to make a backup of the database that you have, and then they can restore that when they re-image your computer. So as long as they know that that's available, it's just a two-step process, and they can save all of your data going forward, so it's not lost either.
Okay. That's probably what we're going to do. Most of it, just saying, probably just put it on that one computer mainly for our students, like you were saying, Chris. So that's good.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. The other piece in here is that if at any point in time the admin password is forgotten, you can log in, or your IT can log in, and there is a button to reset that admin password back to default. So along the way, you'll see that I'll point out that there are positionings where you can reset passwords if you forgot them. If all else fails and all passwords are forgotten, even this database utility has its own password. If that's forgotten, you can give us a call and we can manually go in the database, and it's a little more lengthy process, but we can reset those so you don't have to start over as well. Next thing I'd just like to point out is, as new operating systems come out, either on the Windows side or on the Apple side with their Mac products there, we do immediately start testing those upstairs in our engineering. We look for any bugs or issues to see if there's any compatibility problems that are going to come up. Schools themselves usually are, you know, a step behind, usually running Windows 8, 7. You'll notice that Windows XP is not on here anymore. That's by design, as Microsoft no longer supports that as well. So as things drop off, you know, it may or may not work, but we didn't write the software to work on those older computers either. So, you know, if your IT goes, hey, I've got this old laptop and you can go ahead and use that one, you know, we're going to take a look at what operating system's on there. And then the next piece is what hardware is in that computer as well. This is the important piece here. Is you'll notice that that video card is underlined here. We do want to make sure that you have a newer video card in your computers. If you have questions on that, certainly reach out to your IT staff. If you want to give us a call and we can remotely connect, we can help identify what's in those computers as well to tell you, yep, that should work, or you know, you're going to have to update this or find a new computer. Some older computers can run the software, but what you'll notice is that you may have some performance issues where things don't look quite right on the screen. They're not very smooth. So we really stress this is a minimum requirement. The rest of the stuff on there, the dual core or the resolution or the memory hardware, all those are non-issues. That video card is always that big thing that we see come up, where we'll get calls saying this isn't working, it doesn't look right, and it'll either have the wrong video card in it, or we just need to update the driver for that video card. All of these things we can help you identify over the phone or by remotely connecting to your computer to make sure that you've got something that works on your end. Any questions on the hardware requirements, the installation piece at all? I see a chat message come up here. Let's take a look at that. No from you. Okay. So let's talk about the hierarchy of the accounts here. Have any of you had a chance to use the software at all, or install it, or even take a look?
We haven't.
Haven't? Okay. All right.
No, wasn't sure about, I wanted to make sure about where to download it and all that. I didn't want to put it on something and then that's not where I wanted it in the future. So
absolutely, absolutely. And talking about downloading the software there, if you've opened the boxes, there should have been a piece of paper in there, some documentation telling you where to go download the software, the user guides, and the curriculum. If any of you didn't find that or don't have it, let me know, and I'll bring that up as we go through this recording here, so that way you'll have it now, and then if you've got questions later, you can find it as well. Talking about the hierarchy of accounts here, inside the software there are 3 account levels. And this chart kind of best represents what we have going on. For the top level there, we have this admin account. The admin account, its sole purpose is really to create your instructor accounts. So if your IT staff is installing it, they may log in as this admin user inside the software to create your instructor accounts. They may come back to you and go, well, here's your username and password to log in as an instructor. If you're installing this yourself, you are going to have to log in as this admin user in the software to begin with. And we'll go through that, and I'll show you what that looks like in the software right after we get through this chart here. But there is a default username and password that is used for an admin account. In each instructor account and student account we get there, we'll have a default password as well. So for admin, again, we create instructor accounts. There's no limit on the number of instructors you can put in the software here. And then the other piece is you can change units of measurement from either standard to metric. When we go to log in as an admin for the first time, the username is going to be admin and the password is going to be admin. After entering that default password of admin in, it's going to prompt you to change it to something of your choosing. Go ahead and choose something that you want on your end that you already use, that you're going to remember, or we suggest the 1, 2, 3 ABC in the documentation just because that was simple, easy to remember. But do whatever you're comfortable with on your end. Make sure you can either remember it or make a note of it so you can reference that later. The next level down is the instructor account level. This is really where all your work is going to be done at. In the instructor level, you log in as your instructor account that you created at that admin level. And the first thing you're going to do is create your classes or individual class if you have just one. From that point, you're going to create students. Again, we have no limits on the number of students you can have in your classes as well. So if you're teaching 300 kids, you can put 300 in. We don't keep track of that at all. We want you to be able to use it however you need to use it. The next thing you'll do is create those welding assignments for your students to practice and begin testing on. Inside the software, we're going to go through, we'll show you the defaults that we have already established in there, and then I'll show you how you can create custom WPSs as well. The last piece there is as your students begin using the product, you'll be able to view data such as material savings overall, individual student reports, and overall class reports. So a lot of busy work is done in that instructor level. Finally, the third level, the one at the bottom there, is the student account level. The students will have a username provided to them by you as the instructor. They will log in with the default password, which is the word password. When they log in the first time, it'll prompt them to change that default password to something of their choosing as well. So here again, your students will have to remember that password. You can create a generic student account and have everyone use that, but then you start losing the individualized grading and test scores that you would have if every student has their own account. I have instructors do it both ways, so it's whatever works best for you. When the student logs in, the only things that they have access to are the welds or the WPSs that you've assigned to them. They can practice those welds. After achieving a certain score, they can then test their skills on those welds, and they can get immediate feedback and view their graded reports for both practices and those tests there. So there's a lot on this page to go through, but let me go ahead and pull up that software here in a second. Before I do that, I just want to show you a couple screenshots of what we're going to see inside the software here. One of the big things with simulators here is the ability to have dexterity guides. These are kind of those guidelines to help students get that muscle memory to learn what positions to be in as they perform this simulated arc time. So in the center of this image here, you'll see that we have a green plus. Right next to it is a red minus and then a yellow equal sign. So this is the student's speed indicator. As they begin welding across that seam there, it's going to track and give them corrective actions. We'll see what that looks like in a moment. In the upper right-hand corner, we have two red arrow indicators. Those are going to be indicating the student's travel angle. So rotation of the wrist, left or right. Again, if those come up, it's corrective action to get them back in proper position. In the upper left-hand corner, we're going to have the work angles. So if they're tilting up or down and those arrows come up, again, that's going to tell them which direction to move to get in position here again. On the nozzle of the MIG gun, and we'll also see that on the electrode when we have stick attached, is a nozzle to plate or arc length dexterity guide. This is going to tell them if they're too close or too far away in position to where they should be laying down that bead. And then finally, the other thing we see on the screen here are two dotted white lines. That is tracking the overall straightness as the student performs their weld. I'll bring this up right away and then we'll hop right into the software and we'll see what all this looks like when we put it together. This is an example of what the student report is going to look like. As the student welds, we're tracking work angle, travel angle, plate distance there, speed, and straightness. All of those are going to have the certain degrees set in place, and that's going to be based on what WPS you choose as a default or what you create as a custom WPS for the students to follow and weld. The gray band or bar across the center of the screen here is those tolerance levels. For this particular weld, we can see that it was a novice difficulty, so those tolerances are wide open. So we allow the students to have a lot of maneuverability, but they could still be within that tolerance range and still get a good score as we see for work angle and travel angle here. The orange line on screen is actually where the software tracked the student performing their weld. So if we take a look at speed here, we can see that the student went too slow, sped up a little bit, slowed back down out of spec, sped up again, went too fast towards the end here. So as the student's performing their weld, we're tracking this all the way across that seam there, or that bead. We show an individual score of each of these 5 things we're grading, so the student can reflect on this and go, I did good on a few of these things, I'm going to focus on my speed and go back and practice here again.
Report to the library for education counselor's meeting. Also, that over here, report to the library. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine. I heard it, so I just thought I'd wait there a second. Once we have these 5 individual percentages for the student, we average those out so they get an overall score for the weld that they just did. Also, we'll have a video replay option available to the students. So if they're doing the weld, they look at the report, and they want to go back and watch the weld again, they can see what they did in real time. And then finally, this weld progress or this history bar allows them to click on that, and it'll show a line graph of every practice they did with this particular weld and every test they did with this particular weld to see how they've improved over time. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to pull up the software, and we're going to log in as the instructor just to show you what that looks like. I will log in as an admin as well, and then finally we'll log in as a student and go through much of those same things.
Admin is like you, the instructor, administrator. Student would be actually a student. So the admin would be, so like if Teresa was setting it up in the school board, and then we could all log in with you, or your school, you know.
So the first time you go to log in as admin, again, you're going to log in with the username of admin and a default password of admin. I've already done that on here, so it didn't prompt me to change the password, but it'll ask you to change it. You'll put in your own password, and eventually you'll come to this screen. You can already see I have a test instructor added in here just as T1, and it gives me the username T1. To add an instructor, you simply go to the bottom right of the screen. You'll put in a first name and a last name. You'll click the Add Welder icon, and it will create this new welder, this new instructor up at the top here. On the left-hand side, you can see units of measurement. Just by simply clicking on that, you can change from standard to metric. We also have a touchscreen option as well. I don't know a lot of people that utilize that, but it was something that we put in the software just because we know that there's a lot of computers out there that are now starting to incorporate touch screens. So really logging in as an admin, the only thing you're really doing in here is creating your instructor accounts and changing your units of measurement if you need to. So I've got my instructor. I'm going to go ahead and log in as the instructor now. Here again, the first time you log in as an instructor, it's going to ask you for a password. The default password is the word password. Once you enter in password, it'll prompt you to change that password to something of your own choosing. You'll do that, and it will take you into the instructor screen. Now you can see I have a couple classes added already. In your case, you won't have any, so you'll come down to the bottom left. You'll click on Add Class. It will ask you to give it a name. And you'll simply click Save. And now it's created another class up top here. Looking at this class, as we go from left to right, you have an archive feature. This allows you, if you want to create all your classes ahead of time, you can do that. You can simply click Archive. It'll close those classes out. So the students, even though they have their username and passwords, no one would be able to access this from the student level until you as the instructor want them to, and you can take it out of archive and it's back to being an active class. We have some reset options in here as well. So you'll see there's 3 different things we can do in here. One, you can delete all student data for the class. So that's going to keep your class, the assignments, and all the students you have listed in there. It's just going to remove all of their progress. You can delete the student data and students, so you can keep your class and all the assignments you had. And if you're starting a new semester, you'll just add your new students in, give them the username and passwords, and that's all you have to do to set it up for your second semester. The third option deletes everything, student data, students, and the assignments in the class. So the only thing that remains is the class itself, which will then look like our testing class with no students, no assignments, and no material savings. So it'll essentially be you're starting from scratch. At this point, we don't have any students added in the class. So the next option down here is going to be Edit Students. If you click on that, it brings up a screen to add your students as well. first and last name. We'll click the Add Welder icon in the bottom right corner, and it's now created a username for my student. Here again, if you have a student that joined your class and then drops out, moves, or whatever the case may be, goes to a different class, you can just simply go in, find them, click Delete Student. That's going to remove them. You have the option to reset their data here. And my favorite is, this is where you can go and reset their passwords. So there's no Johnny or Susie coming in and saying, well, I forgot my password, I guess I can't do anything today. And you having to get a hold of anyone else to come in and reset it. You simply log in as your instructor account, find the student, click Reset Password. It goes back to the default password, which is the word password. You give that to them, they go back and log in, and they're back in business. Again, you can add as many students as you want in that class list. We don't limit any of those things. Now you can see under number of students, we have 1 student added in this class, but we don't have any assignments. So let's do that now. We're going to go into Edit Class, left click on that. Here's where the software really begins to shine. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have 27 default MIG welds and 27 default stick welds if we scroll down here. How we get to that number of 27 is that we have different weld joint types, different difficulty levels, and different thickness levels of steel as well. So if we take a look at this top one that I have highlighted in yellow, the weld type is a MIG weld, the joint type, T for T-joint, MS for mild steel, N for novice difficulty, and then 16 gauge. For any of these that we have over here, if you click on them, that same information is going to be shown in the center of the screen. So you can get another representation of what we're looking at in this name here. Again, MIG, T-joint, mild steel, 16 gauge, novice difficulty. As we scroll down here a little bit, you'll notice that there are 3 different difficulty levels. We have novice, N for novice, I for intermediate, and A for advanced. I'll show you what that looks like when we log in as a student here. I'm going to first add this top weld just as it is. To add it to my class assignment list, I'll click the plus symbol next to it. It's now moved that over to the right-hand side of the screen. This is now an assignment that my students can see and begin practicing. I'm going to find an advanced one for this T-joint as well. So MIG, T-joint, mild steel, A for advanced, and 1/8 inch. I'll click the plus, and I'll move that over to my assignment list here as well. If I scroll down the available assignments, I'm going to grab one of the stick welds here. So ST for stick, again, T-joint, mild steel, novice, 1/8 inch. Click the plus symbol, and it's moved into the right-hand side under class assignments. So right now, my student has 3 assignments that they're able to see when they log in, and they can begin practicing on. You'll notice that all of our default welds have mild steel selected. That's been done on purpose, mainly because a lot of schools don't have access to either stainless or aluminum. So we went with just a default of mild steel. The other thing is all of our default welds for material cost are set at $1. Now that may be different in whatever area you're at. You may get steel donated to you, so you don't have to buy that. However it may work out, your material cost may be different. So we give you the option in the center of the screen here to create custom WPSs. So if you have certain industries in your area and their welders perform a specific weld, and you want to give your students some simulated arc time performing those types of welds, you have the ability to come in the center here and start manipulating any of these icons that are not grayed out. So you can change your material cost to be $3.25 a weld for that 6-inch piece, Whatever it costs on your end, you want that to be represented there, because that'll keep a running tally of every time the student performs a practice weld or test weld, what you're actually saving in materials in your shop. In the right here, you have the ability to change your work angles, travel angles, distances, your speeds. You can choose whether you want them to do push or pull, and then you have the ability to change the difficulty level here. Again, we have it defaulted to mild steel, but we do offer stainless and aluminum as well. So your students can get some simulated arc time and have some exposure welding on different materials that they may not have access in your actual shop. You'll notice right now we have MIG selected, so the electrode is obviously grayed out, not in use there. But the other thing that's grayed out is orientation. We have gotten feedback where people are wanting to see different positioning, inside outside corners, vertical welding, pipe welding, those types of things. So those are things that in engineering we're currently working on developing and testing to try to get that available out to you as well. Now previously I mentioned if there were software updates, patches, fixes, things like that, there are no costs associated with any of those things, no licensing fees, no installation fees. If there's new hardware that comes out, such as the most recent one was in the case of stick here, there is a fee to purchase the stick hardware. But the software updates and everything will come free to you that way. If you want to create a custom weld in here, simply change the settings to what you want. You'll click Save WPS at the bottom. You'll give that a custom name, and then that'll end up in the list on the left-hand side here, right towards the bottom. You can see I have one down there, just SS, a stainless steel weld that I threw in there. If you wanted to create a custom stick weld, you would just simply change the weld type to stick. You'll notice that push-pull is no longer something you can change. It is set to pull only. And then you have the options to choose some common electrodes down here at the bottom. So 60-10, 11, 60-13, 70-18. Once you're happy with what you've chosen here, again, simply click Save WPS, give it a name, and it goes in your available assignment list on the left-hand side. Any questions on the default welds or creating custom welds here? If not, once you have your welds selected that you want your students to accomplish, simply click the back arrow button in the bottom left corner of the screen here. That takes you back out to this same class listing here. Now we can see in our testing class, I have one student added. She or he now has 3 assignments to complete. We haven't done anything yet because we've not logged in as the student, so we haven't performed any welds, so there's no material savings, nor is there class average showing up here. As the students begin using this, at a glance, you'll be able to see class averages and material savings, just like we see in my Welding 2 class. So on average, I've got an 84% for this class, and we've saved $4 here. At this point in time, your first setup, there's nothing else you're going to do in here because there's no class reports to view, no student reports to view yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the exit button and we're going to go back out to the login screen. When your students launch the software, this is where they're going to begin. So they're going to enter in their username and a default password, which is the word password. Here you see it prompts them to change that password from default to something new. I'm just changing mine to 123 ABC. I'll click Save. This now gets me to log into the software, and I'm logged in as my student, as you can see in the upper right hand here. So here again, the student is only able to see the welds that you've assigned to them. And we can see that they all have a status of new because we haven't done anything with them yet. There's no progress recorded here as well. We haven't done anything. The student can see the assignment details in the center of the screen here. So for example, we'll grab this middle one. This will be the first one I'll do. It's a MIG weld, again, T-joint, mild steel, novice difficulty on 16 gauge. You'll notice that the only thing available here is for the student to click on practice. The software does require the student to practice the welds before they can test, and it requires them to get a 40% or greater before the test option will even be unlocked. We did get some feedback from instructors saying, well, we'd really like to be able to change that percentage to whatever we want it to be. That is also something that we got for feedback and something that we're trying to incorporate in the software. So that should be something coming out in the future here. Likewise, you can see for the test option here, there's an orange circle with the number 5 in it. Currently, the software allows the students to take their test 5 times on here. Now, as the instructor, if you tell them you only allow them to take it once, if they come in and take that test, that number is going to drop down to 4. You're going to know they only took it 1 time. If it's anything other than 4, oh, go ahead.
When the individual student is welding, practice, when he finishes the practice, can he go back and see what he did right or wrong and let him know?
Yes. No, absolutely. So, very good question. So every time they do a practice or a test, when they finish that weld and they click the save icon, they'll get an immediate report to come up on the screen. So for practices, it's important to note that that report will come up on screen and they'll be able to reflect on that. If they back out of that, that report is then gone because we don't save the practice reports. There is the option that they can print it to a PDF and they can save it as a hard copy that way. The thought behind it is if I'm a student, I'm probably going to do a lot of practices. And you could really rack up a lot of saved reports for each of these practices over time as well. And what do we get for value out of that? As a student, we want to see what we did right or wrong. We want to go back in and practice and then focus on what we need to improve on. But we may never go back and look at that first report again. Now we're focusing on the next report that came through for our practices. For the tests, however, their test report is going to be saved and they can view that at any point in time as well. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to log in, go into the virtual welding booth here to practice this middle MIG weld that I have. The first time coming to the booth, we're still trying to stress safety. When you go to weld, you're putting on your gloves, you're pulling down your helmet. It's a little way that we found to be able to incorporate in here. Even though they're in the classroom environment, we never want them to forget that when they go to weld, it's still something that could cause harm to them if they don't practice proper safety precautions. At this point in time, I'm now in the virtual booth. My hardware is ready to go. And you'll see on screen, it first wants us to tack the left side as shown. Tacking is very important. As you tack in the unit here, what it's actually doing in the background is it's calibrating the software and hardware to know where to expect that weld. So all of the tracking that the student does while it performs the weld is based on where they tack and how they tack in these first 2 steps here. So it's very important to note that when we tack the left side, what we want to have happen is we're going to pick that MIG gun up, we're going to push it tight against the coupon. Half of the nozzle is going to be on the coupon and half is going to be off, and it's going to be at a 45-degree angle. Let me go out to a big screen here and I'm going to show you a little bit closer what that looks like. So I'll show you from this angle to begin with. When we tack again, that MIG gun is touching the coupon here, and there's a seam right down the center of the MIG gun that separates it into 2 halves. I use that seam to know that half of my nozzle is off and half is on the coupon. I'm at a 45-degree angle here, and the handle is parallel up top here. When in position, simply pull the trigger and release. Turn that sideways a little bit so you can see this. So the right side is the same thing, tight against the coupon, 45-degree angle with the nozzle here, half on and half off, handles parallel, pull the trigger and release. So it's a little different than you do in the shop, because in the shop you're going to have that wire come out and you're going to be a little bit away. But for these purposes, the software needs to be calibrated as accurately as possible, and that's the best way to do that. Now you can see in the software, I'm ready to actually begin welding as everything's been tacked and calibrated. Here again on screen, we see that green plus indicator for our speed. As I move from right to left here, tell me to slow down or speed up if I'm going too slow or too fast. The upper left and right hand corners, as I tilt or rotate the MIG gun, I'm going to get those corrective arrows to get me back in proper welding positions. On the nozzle of the gun, here's that arc length or nozzle to plate distance for MIG here. If I'm too far away, you'll see it gives me that red arrow, and it wants me to be directed to come back into the proper position here. For any of these dexterity guides, you can simply turn them on or off by clicking the orange buttons in the bottom left corner. So as the student practices, they review their reports and then come back to practice again and work on the things that they need to improve on. If I had my speed down and my muscle memory is good and I've got that every time, I can simply come over to the bottom left corner, click on the orange button next to speed, and turn that dexterity guide off. Now I can just focus on my distance, my overall straightness, or my work and travel angles here. So the student can have on as many guides or as few guides as they want while they practice. In the bottom center of the screen, we have a brightness adjuster. That is to adjust the mask density once you strike an arc, how bright or how dark it is inside the mask. Right next to that, we have a camera icon that allows you to change your viewing angles or positioning here, as well as your tilt and pan and zoom buttons right next to that. What I find though is while you can use these buttons here, if you have a mouse holding the left mouse button, you can rotate and change your viewing position to anything that you could do in the real world as well. So anything you can do in your physical shop, any position you have that you view, you can accomplish in this virtual environment. If you hold the right mouse button, you can zoom in or zoom out. So you can get right in position there and watch that wire being fed from that nozzle as you perform your weld here. You can watch that bead pool and perform your weld. So you can get right in as close as far as away, whatever angle the student wants to weld at, they can do. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here so I can go through and do this weld, and then I'll show you what that report looks like. So there is sound that goes with this as well. If I'm in proper position, you'll notice that the nozzle of my gun is glowing gold. If I was to zoom out here, the entire gun actually glows gold. This is some positive reinforcement for the student to say, you've got all of your positions spot on, you're doing a great job, keep it up. If you get out of position or too slow, you'll notice that that golden gun goes away. And if I start tilting different angles here, all these other indicators are going to come on screen to tell me, well, get back in position. Too far away, come in closer. You know, I've rotated one way or the other, help you get back in position there. So all those dexterity guides, again, are corrective actions that the students will receive as they perform their welds. Once they've completed the weld here, we can click on the Save button in the bottom right corner. Now it's right above the Exit button, so be careful You don't rush over there and click the wrong button, but the top button with the save diskette on it, you'll left click on that, and this is where the student gets that immediate feedback. So they were able to go in, get the weld set up, tack, perform the weld, and see how they did on it right away. In a traditional shop, as you're all aware, you'll grab the steel, you'll tack, you'll perform your weld, you'll take things off, you'll grab that steel, you'll go over to the tank, you'll quench it, you'll go find the instructor, ask them how you did, they'll talk to you about it, you go throw that in the bin, or you go grab another piece of steel to attach to it, you go get set back up again, and you try to do the whole thing all over again. So there's a lot of time lost between when the student's performing the action and they get that corrective feedback of how they did. And if you've got multiple welding booths and a lot of students going at once, that time even expands longer because you're only one instructor in that shop and you're still trying to provide all the students the appropriate time they need to hone their skills in and become better welders. In this case, the simulator allows this immediate feedback on screen. So me as the student can come in and take a look and go, all right, so my travel angle, I got out of bounds on, didn't do so hot there. My speed's all over the place. So maybe those are a couple things I'm really going to focus on. I see what my overall score is here. You know, I still got a good score. I'm on a novice difficulty, but I have a lot of improvement to do in my speed section especially. So as a student now, I could go, I'm going to go do it again. Click the back button, takes you back out to your assignment screens here. You click practice, and the student's right back in, ready to begin tacking all over again. Can get in position if they want to, or weld right from here. Again, if you see if I get out of position, that work angle and travel angle thing is going to bark at me, telling me, well, tilt back where you should be. Came through again, perform my weld, click save, and already I've got another report showing me what I did on my last weld and where I can improve on. Any questions on this?
So they they don't have a helmet. They don't have a helmet that they have. How is it visually? They have to put a helmet on? It doesn't come with it though, huh?
So that's a good question. Good question. So because this is set up in the classroom environment itself, we initially were selling the units with a helmet on it. And what we found is that a lot of instructors weren't using it because they said, well, it's connected to the computer and they're looking at the computer screen. The helmet just adds more of that aesthetic feel again. So we do have some instructors that they have old shop helmets. They put a clear lens in it, and then they make their students wear the helmet as well.
But the students are going to be actually looking at the screen, not actually looking at what they're welding.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So that is a difference between welding in the shop and welding in any simulated environment. When the students weld, let me pull out here to a little bigger view.
Yeah.
When the students weld here, what they're actually looking at is a monitor that's right in front of them here.
Yeah.
So this piece that's on here is used for that calibration piece or that tacking piece. But once you do that, if it causes issues where everyone's looking at this and not looking at the screen, there's nothing that's happening in this physical world. Everything is on the monitor. So after you tack that, you can also remove this. Now the only thing they can look at is whatever's going to be on their monitor right in front of them here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the best way to look at this is a tool, much like a video game controller or any other type of controller that you're using to manipulate something else in a different environment. In this case, it's what's happening in the software is all controlled by these handheld controllers and this unit to track it here. So in my setup here, this is not a great representation of what you would have.
Now it's in the class, and you have your committee motion form turned in. We're about to start the motion meeting.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a question or another announcement.
As an announcement, yeah, it was just.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I can't turn it off, so go ahead.
Sure. So now as a student, I've performed a couple practices. You can see that I've got my highest practice scores listed as my progress here for this weld. The test function is now unlocked. So I'll click on that. We'll go back into that virtual welding booth here. And it still wants us to tack the left and the right side. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm ready to begin welding. But what's missing? You'll notice there's no dexterity guides on the screen at all. So the practice allows the students to have those guides to hone their skills and have all that simulated arc time to really get that muscle memory down and get those positionings right. Now they're in this test environment and it's entirely up to them. It's show me your skills that you've worked on up to this point. We'll come through. We've tacked already, so we're going to begin doing that weld. I mentioned there was sound with this as well, so you still get, the bacon frying, or, if they're too far away, you may just hear some gas sounds or some ambient noises in the shop. That's something that while we try to recreate as accurately as possible, we fall a little short on different times, because you as instructors know that in your shops, most of you could probably hear from across the room, well, that student didn't do this, or they're doing this wrong, because you can just tell from the sounds across the room when they're right where they should be or when they're off. So in this case, I perform my test. You'll notice the report looks exactly the same like the practice one, so we don't change anything there at all. We still take those scores, average them out to give the overall score here. But now we also have history that's open. So for history, what you can see is you can see this black line towards the top around the 80% to 86, indicating the two practices that I had accomplished. And then you can see over here on the right-hand side the orange dot for the one test that I had just taken. Over time, as students are practicing these things, you're going to have an actual line graph that's going to stretch quite a ways across this, and you'll get the sense of how they're improving doing these things. If you allow your students to take multiple tests as well, you'll have those same representations of, they practiced, they got to a certain point, they did their test, I told them to go back and practice some more. Now I have them do their test a second time, and we could see how they improved from the previous one. So this is a snapshot over time how the student is improving doing this particular weld. From here, there is the ability to print these reports out as well. So if you're reviewing it and you wanted to put a printed copy in the student's folder, or you want to print it to a PDF and just save a digital copy somewhere, you have those abilities to do that right on this screen as well, just by clicking the print icon down here. So that is actually performing a MIG weld at the novice difficulty here. I want to show you what the advanced difficulty looks like, just so you can get a feel for really what we're asking the students to do. So again, it's set up the same way in the shop. We're going to get that tack completed. You'll already notice that those two dotted white lines are much closer together, the indicator that those tolerance need to be that much more accurate as I perform this weld here. I'm going to rotate and get in a little bit better position for myself. Zoom in some. And I'll begin performing that weld. Now as I'm going here, I already know that I'm off at different times because I'm not getting that golden gun. But the important thing is to note, when we go to this report, you'll see that those tolerances are much tighter. If you remember, there used to be a wide, almost an inch wide gray band across here where I could be anywhere within that band and still score well. Now you'll notice on the speed one especially here and this straightness that for speed, I mean, I have to be spot on with my muscle memory as I go across this. And if I'm in or out, my grade's going to reflect that. So as your students progress using this in the classroom, they may start out at the novice difficulty. They may all be doing really well at that, just inherently. You may want to bump them up to intermediate. That's that middle ground for them. Then you may start to find that students are struggling with certain aspects here, and they can really practice and start, bettering their skills, that muscle memory with that arc time. Once they get that mastered there, I mean, you can get them into advanced and really expect them to be accurate as they're performing these welds. Now, from some experience and feedback that we've got from some other instructors out there, and just things that I've seen from me being out on the road, is that a lot of times, we look to see definitely the value in some of these products. And we have had some instructors come back, even at the technical college here in Eau Claire, where she noticed that for 2 weeks she had some students use this, and she had the other half of her class with her doing traditional instructing. After 2 weeks, she was able to come back and positively say that students that were using this were actually performing better welds once they got up to the shop than her traditional taught students. So, and it's not just her. We've had some instructors down in, I believe George Carr is in Texas. I mean, did a great write-up for us as well, sent that in. So any simulator that's out there, it's not just our product, but any simulator out there has been proven time and time again to provide those benefits to students, to teach them more effectively and more efficiently in a shorter time period. And, I don't know how big your classes are. When I was in high school, which has been a bit now, we had 32 kids in my shop class, and we had 2 welding booths. So it was really hard, one, to get everyone through, but 2, it was hard for the instructor to take any time away from, the 30 other kids that aren't welding at the time, focus on these 2, and try to keep everything in control there and have everyone progressing at relatively the same pace. What these here was great is that, you're able to set them up in a classroom, and for the cost of some of these versus a lot of other options out there, I mean, you can get multiple of these units and you could have your students in there kind of self-teaching, self-guiding through and getting that immediate feedback in that environment. You have a question?
No.
Nope, okay. So let me hop back in the software here. I want to show you the stick side of things now. Any questions on MIG at all? We try to make it, pretty straightforward. Just here's what you do. You come in, tack, perform your weld, use those guides, and get that immediate feedback right away to those students. So we've done that for this MIG weld here at the bottom now. You'll notice that I've practiced, I've tested, and now the status shows it's been completed. So as a student, I know I don't have to go back and do that one again. But if I wanted to go back and practice some more, I certainly could. For the stick weld here, I want to go through this because if you're welding on MIG and your student all of a sudden says, oh, I want to do a stick weld. If you've got the MIG gun attached, it's going to come up with this message saying, oops, this is a stick weld. And it gives you instructions on screen on how to switch out the MIG gun for the stick, rod holder, and electrode here. So I'm going to do that now. It wants us to turn the power switch off on the side of the unit. We're going to take the collar on the front of the unit. We're going to give that a turn counterclockwise, and then the connection will actually come off. So let me see if I can zoom in here just a little bit to show you this power.
See that, because I just couldn't get mine to plug in, but I didn't want to bend any little connector. I didn't want to bend anything.
Yep. So let me see if I can turn this around here real quick. And I apologize, it's about as close as I can get for some of this. So you'll notice on the port here, there is a little gray paint dot.
Yeah.
Also on the, if I can, I'm trying to juggle everything here. On both of the connectors for either stick or MIG here, there is also a paint dot. So this dot is to help orientate how to connect it. The easiest way I found is if I just get those dots lined up here and just slightly turn a little bit, it'll fall into place. And when I turn that collar, try to get everything out of the way here, you end up just turning it clockwise, and now it's sealed on there. To remove it is simply turn the collar counterclockwise, and it will just pull off. So again, line up those paint dots. Those pins will fall into place there. And then turn that collar, and it will cinch itself right on there.
Turn the machine off before you do it.
Should be off when you're doing that, right?
If it's on, it's not going to hurt anything, but it won't recognize new hardware being connected until you power cycle the unit. So it's always best turn that power switch off, then disconnect the gun or attachment that you have on there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back around here. And then for stick here as well, if we talk about the hardware just a little bit, so you do have the rod holder and you have the electrode here. As you weld, this electrode is actually going to consume itself just like it would in your shop. So there'll be points and times in the software where we'll need to reload the electrode, or there's things that before you tack, it'll want you to pick it up so it can orientate itself correctly. In this case, I'm going to get this connected real quick here. I'm going to turn the unit on, and I'm going to hop right back into the software here on my end. So what we did is we turned the power switch off, disconnected the MIG gun, set that aside, grabbed the stick attachment here, plugged that in, and turned the power back on the guideWELD VR base unit here. After about 10 to 15 seconds, you may hear an audible ding on your computer, indicating that it recognizes the hardware is connected again. Sometimes if you miss that, if you just wait that 10 to 15 seconds, you can come back here, click practice, and it recognizes that it's there and it's ready to begin. Now for stick, the first thing you see is it wants us to pick up the rod holder as indicated by the message in the center of the screen. When I pick this up, what it's actually doing there is it's telling you to wait until the electrode stops moving before proceeding with tacking. What that's doing is it's resetting it so I have a full electrode to begin with. Here again, it wants us to tack. Now again, being accurate at this point is important because as we perform the tack, the hardware and software is actually calibrating. So here it's the same positioning. You're going to take that electrode, you're going to press it tight against the coupon on the left-hand side. As best as possible, you want it half on and half off of the coupon. That's still at that 45-degree angle here. And then what we'll actually do is you're going to press the orange button on top of the rod holder. One press and release. And it's going to have us go to the right-hand side. Repeat that same process. Electrode at that 45-degree angle, touching the coupon, half on and half off. Press the orange button. Once I do that, I'm ready to begin welding here. Now, I'm going to set this down for just a second. You'll notice that we have all of the same dexterity guides on the screen. We have our speed indicator. We have our work angle and travel angles in the upper left and right-hand corner. We have our arc length indicator on the nozzle, not nozzle, the tip of the electrode as well to get us in position here. And then you have the two dotted lines for straightness. Every maneuverability or viewing angle we had inside as we were doing MIG, we have for stick here as well. So none of that changes. At this point in time, I'm ready to begin welding, so I'll grab my rod holder electrode here. I will get in position, and when I strike that match, let's say, I'll begin welding and consuming my electrode. If I can get in proper position, what you'll see then is that electrode will start glowing and the rod holder will as well. So that same positive reinforcement we have for MIG, we have for stick also. Over time, if you're welding a thicker piece of steel and you consume your entire electrode, you will get a message on screen saying you've consumed your electrode, press reload to replace it. You can manually do that as well. I'm going to keep this in here, but you'll manually do that as well. In the bottom center of the screen, you'll see the rod holder and 2 electrodes there. If I click on that, the animation on screen shows us replacing that electrode. The hardware in the physical environment is resetting that electrode, so it's extending that all the way out so that I could finish performing my weld. In this case, I wouldn't have used that entire electrode to do this 6 inches, but you understand what I mean. Once I've completed that weld, the next thing I need to do is chip that slag off, brush it clean. So there's a button in the bottom right with a little chipping hammer there. We're going to clean that all off, give it a good brush, and then we'll be able to save it and view my report for practicing this weld. I'll click on the Save button. Here again, the report is laid out exactly the same way. So what we see is we see the actual WPS information at the top of the screen, what we're welding, what difficulty level. We'll see what we're grading there again, our scores, and then our overall score of 90% in the right-hand side there. So coming from MIG into stick, the differences are, pulling for stick versus push. The students will have to get acclimated to that. That electrode is being consumed here. So as they're working their way across, they're also going to have to work their way in closer as well as the electrode gets shorter. But as far as how the software functions, the grading, the feedback and reports, that all remains the same between MIG and stick. Any questions on any of that at all? Doesn't sound like it. So let's talk about the curriculum a little bit here. With the curriculum, what we've tried to do is we've broken it down into 3 separate units here. So in the first unit, we're going to talk about welding careers, types of welding, welding safety. Those important things right off the bat. The next unit is going to be welding equipment, more welding basics, and starting to identify welding defects. Whereas the third unit is introducing them to the guideWELD VR simulator and operating inside that virtual environment. So you'll see here we have different pages, PowerPoints, lesson plans. We give an estimate of hours that could be spent teaching using the curriculum here. There are a lot of presentation slides available to you as well. And then specific lesson topics will be laid out for each of the curriculum as you take a look at that. As it says, we really wanted this to be a complete teaching tool, so we include those teacher guides, different presentations, such as you see on the right-hand side here. We have student note sheets, so as you're doing lesson plans, things like that, they can keep track and have something handy to refer back to. There are different quizzes available along the way, tests, and then all the answer keys are provided for you as well. Let me step back one second here. With our curriculum, we worked with the technical college instructor in Eau Claire here, where she actually helped us put this curriculum together, as well as all of the default welds we have inside the software. We really wanted to make sure that we were accurate as we were going through this, and that the value was definitely there, and we weren't misrepresenting anything along the way. So with this curriculum here, we felt like we did a good job trying to get someone who knows this stuff inside and out to be able to put that together. So along the way, if you find anything that you think is wrong or anything like that, that's another one of those feedback points. I'm always open to hear those things and to review and make sure that we haven't done something wrong on our end. And if we did, we want to get those corrected right away. But here again, we want to make sure that we provide something that's all value for you as the instructor and for the students here also. Along with that added value, there is an additional piece of curriculum available on our website. You can see realityworks.com/career exploration. This is where it's more something that you can provide the students to take a look at what else is available in that welding field. What else can I do as a welder? So in this case, we'll talk about careers in manufacturing and production, fabrication, engineering, testing and certifying, pipe welding, all those things. So this is something that students can take a look at and see what other jobs are out there. What other things can I do? I come from a very small town. I come from a farm family. So the welding that I was familiar with was, a piece of machinery broke down. We'd take it in the shop. We'd weld it. It would fix itself. It would, hold together for a while, but it may not always look pretty. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term or not, but we always called it, well, that's a good farm weld. It works for us, but it's not something that I'd go out and show anyone and be proud of. With that, this just opens the students' eyes to other things that are out there for them. So before we get into the product support side of things and the other things we offer our website, any questions on the unit, the components that come with it, the MIG or stick, the software, anything we've talked about so far? I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but we'll definitely get this recording to you. You can review that as well. Nothing so far?
No question.
Nothing? Okay. All right. If anything comes up even after this, always reach out to us. I'd be happy to sit down and go over whatever that may be.
Almost done. Yeah. I guess the curriculum that you're talking about, all that has to be downloaded. It's on what software that comes, once you download the software, it comes with it?
It's a separate download from the software. So the same place you go to download the software, you would just download the curriculum as well.
Okay.
I'll show you what it looks like in a second.
Yeah, it's not in the, it didn't send it with it. Okay.
Correct. Yep. We didn't send any paper copies with it, anything like that. Everything was available for download purposes. So a couple things keep in mind is we do have a website out there, realityworks.com. In this case, support and guideWELD VR. So out there, you're going to find different videos, documents. You'll find software downloads and guides as well. And then we have our product support department. So you're able to email us. There's a link at the bottom of our website you can click on to fill out an email form. Or you can always just email us at productsupport@realityworks.com. Our hours of operation are 7:30 to 5 Central Standard Time, and we do have that 1-800 number there available to you as well. 800-830-1416. You'll just choose option 2, and that takes you right into support. The other thing that we have available at all times are different webinars. So we're doing a webinar-based training here. There are different videos out there where they're just short 30-minute webinars of something that we're doing, something new coming out, a touching base on a product that you may already have just as a refresher. So once in a while, you'll see that there are things that you can sign up and register for. Again, short 30-minute webinars. Excuse me. And then what we'll do is we'll put those past ones on our website. So if you've missed it, you can always go out there and take a look at those as well. It's just another resource for you to kind of keep in touch and see what else is happening. I know this last spring and then last year, they had me do 4 different webinars that were, let's reintroduce you to guideWELD VR, and then let's talk about using it in the classroom, which is the one thing you mentioned you'd like to touch on as well. So we'll talk about that too. What are the best ways to maximize the effectiveness as your students use this type of product? So let me go ahead and stop that and let's talk about that real quick. with our products here, and I've got a whole bunch back there that I'll just point out in a second here, but with this product specifically, this is kind of a step one. You've got new students coming in. They may have never welded at all in their life. They're interested about it, or they may have done a couple things, but there's no real skill built or developed behind that. This is a good starting point for everyone to come in. Here's a way to get them in, get those core mechanics of welding under their belt, and start to develop that muscle memory with all of that simulated arc time, without burning all your materials in your shop, without you having to worry about them from a safety standpoint, or any of those other things that come into play when they're in the shop working with your welders. So this gives you the ability to have a lot of students come in, use it for the first time. Once they get past this point and you're getting them ready to go out into the shop, then some of these other things come into play. What I found from feedback from some instructors is they actually use this simulator to kind of get kids up to speed, and the instructor will take a look at how they're performing on this and determine if they're ready to go out in the shop and practice on real steel. So they'll set up it as a competition between students. This week, let's see, I've assigned this weld. Let's see who gets the best grade on this. Really get students playing against each other. I have instructors that, they'll come in, they'll create a weld, or WPS. They'll log in as a student account that they've created for themselves. They'll perform that, print that out, and post that on a board and say, here's the score to beat. To get your students engaged not only with themselves, but with you as the instructor in a different way than it's traditionally done in a shop class. So create that healthy competition, get that excitement going there. So it's used as an entry piece for getting them in the shop. It's used as competition. It's used as just beginning basics, never touched a welder before. Let's take some of the fear aspects away from, the sparks and the heat and the fumes. Those are a couple ways to use VR here. If you don't mind, I want to take just a minute just to point out the live unit in the back here. That's kind of the step 2 process here. If we look at these back ones, live, which is this guy right over here, is actually used inside your welding shop with real steel. You use your MIG welder in there, or coming soon your doing stick. You'll put this out in your shop. This sits right on your bench. You put your steel below it. This piece will actually track the speed as the students begin performing their weld as it goes across there. And then in the helmet, what that does is it tracks all the same stuff that we did inside of the VR here. So in the helmet, there are 4 little screens in there, and it will show you, as you're welding, your speed and your work angle and travel angles. So you're getting corrective action inside the helmet, kind of your instructor over your shoulder, giving you feedback as the student's welding on that 6 to 12-inch piece of steel. So if you've got multiple welding booths, you've got one of those in a booth, you as the instructor do not have to try to bounce back and forth between the booths as your students are welding. They've got some corrective actions there, and most times what we can see is students start out, and by the time they finish performing their weld, they're getting in those right positions and they're starting to perform a quality weld. The other pieces back here are a bend tester, which you're probably familiar with, and then a defects kit, which is another way to help students identify defects that occur in the shop. And there are flashcards that go with it as well to talk about the defects themselves. How do you identify what defect it is, what causes that defect, and what corrective action can be taken to prevent that from occurring in the first place. So all these pieces are part of that career side of our house, or that welding package that we have there, but they all do something a little bit differently. Again, beginner, step 1, step 2, and then you get into some of these other things that are important later on as they begin welding as well. So the last piece I want to do here is I'm going to pull up our website, and I just want to show you what that looks like currently, because that's a great resource for you as well. It'll take me a second just to open that up here. All right. So you should be able to see our website here, realityworks.com. What you'll notice is, I mean, you can take a look at all of our other products and stuff out there, but we do have a support button right here. You can go ahead and click on that support button. That's going to take you to our product support page. As you scroll down here, we'll see our RealCareer section. And here's where we have specific to VR and then live and some of our other things. We'll click on guideWELD VR, and that's going to take us right in as soon as it responds here a little bit. And what you'll see as you scroll down is we're going to go through those support videos. Remember, in the beginning, I talked about this is where we can go through and talk about everything we're doing today is going to be in these support videos as well. So I'll take you through unboxing, downloading, installing the software, logging in for the first time, creating those custom WPSs, and then performing your different welds. If you like reading instead of watching a video, you can follow the documentation right below as well. It has all of the same information there. Here's your option here. You can download your software right from this screen. What you notice is missing is there's no curriculum on this website. You do have to go to a different location to download your curriculum, simply because that's kind of a proprietary piece that we want to protect a little bit. So that link that you would have received inside your box to go download the software still holds true. So realityworks.com/guideWELDVR-downloads. If we hit enter, we'll go there. Here's where you find your software again. All your different user guides, so your admin guide for installing the first time, instructor guide, student guides, and then your curriculum is right down here at the bottom. Click on download, it's going to come up, it's going to ask you where you want to save that. You can save that to a flash drive, your hard drive, wherever is convenient for you. You'll just save that and then you're able to open that up. So a lot of things that we have here, again, don't be shy to call or ask us questions. Anytime you need help with anything, certainly reach out and let us know. So we're a little short here. I mean, it's 10:30. We got an hour left to kill. If you've got questions or any concerns, now's the time. Let me know. Otherwise, I don't have anything else on any of this product anymore. The guideWELD VR. We've gone through everything there. If you've got any specific questions about anything on the back shelf here, let me know as well. On our website, there are videos showing the live unit in operation inside a welding booth as well. So all those things, take a look at those if those interest you as well. But otherwise, I thank you for your time today, and I have nothing else at the moment. So any questions, I'll hang out here for a bit, and just let me know.
Give us your number. If we have a question, we need to call and talk to you. What was that number?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. If you want to call and get to me directly, you'll call 1-800-830-1416, and my extension is 1147.
That's email address.
Oh yeah, I got that.
The best way to reach me via email is that productsupport@realityworks.com. That does go to a general email box. So if I'm out of the office, someone else that's here is going to be able to see that right away. Same thing with the phone is if you call my direct extension and I'm out for some reason on vacation or whatever it may be, you'll want to have this other number available as well. It's the same 800 number. So 1-800-830-1416, and just choose option 2. That'll go to our support department phone queue as well. So if you need immediate help, that's the best one to call. And then you can always ask for me. And if I'm here, they'll get you right over to me. If I'm out, the two gentlemen that are there, Nate and Nathan, they will be able to assist you as well.
So you are Chris?
Yes. Yep. My name is Chris.
With adaptions and all, if you're demonstrating on this machine, like right now, watching a webinar on my projector, And can it be projected?
Yes. Yep. So if you have a projector or a TV monitor, anything of that nature that you want to throw this up on, you'll just connect that to your computer, and then it'll share your desktop right out from there. Projectors will just show it usually automatically, and yeah, you can project the software up on your screen and show your whole class that way.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So we can, when students go in and change their password, we can still see what those passwords are. You said, right?
You won't see.
Or we can reset those, or what can we?
Yeah, you'll be able to reset those passwords, but you won't see what they are set to. What I mean by that is when the student changes it, that's something that only they know. And if they forget it, you just simply log in as the instructor, click on that student account, and click reset password. That changes it back to the initial one, which is the word password. So that's a good point. So the big thing to remember is the first time you log in as an admin, it's a username of admin and a password of admin. The first time you log in as an instructor, it's going to be the instructor name that you were given that you created under that admin account, and a default password, which is the word password. And it's the same thing for the student. The first time they log in, you're going to give them their username, and they're going to log in with the default password of password. In all those cases, then, you'll be prompted to change it to something of your own choosing, but all the way along, we can reset those as well.
That's obviously good. The students, they share their passwords, and that's a better welders web for them if you're truly grading it. Right. So that's why I was just checking on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing you won't be able to tell is if you're not in that classroom and they're having another student perform their weld for them, you're not going to see that readily there. But when they go to do their test and you're sitting in the classroom, you're going to see that skill level or skill gap come out with that student. If they've been performing perfectly through all these practices, now they take a test and you're in the room watching them and they don't do so hot, well, that kind of tells you they may not have been practicing or something else may have been going on. But
yeah. That's it. That's all I have.
That's all you got? Okay. Well, definitely, Hals and Chuck, thank you. For calling in. That was helpful. We could have that dialogue. For Brad and Danny, which I believe the other one's connected there. I apologize if I missed someone's name, but thank you all for your time today. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, if you've got questions or concerns, always reach out to us. Feedback, love to hear that. That's what really drives us as a company is your guys' input back to us. What do you guys want to see? What do you guys want? Any of those things really tell us what we need to do from our end to make sure we meet those gaps that you have from the educational standpoint that way. And no matter what the question is, I've got some questions from our own sales reps in-house that have been, we forgot to turn the power on the unit, everything's not working, and they call us in and, oh, did you turn it on? Do you see a green light? It happens. So, you got a lot going on in your classroom, 30 some kids on average there. If something comes up, give us a call. It happens to everyone, so we're okay with that. But definitely, again, thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. I'll get this recorded there. I'll get the recording link to you. And then what is a good email address to send that to? That's kind of the next question is who should I send the link to once I have it?
I'll send it to chat. I'll chat it to you.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
He's typing it to you.
Oh, typing it to me. Got it.
Yeah, I can send it out to everyone else. That'd probably be the best thing, man. Just get it, and I can forward it. Unless the other one wants in there.
Okay.